As you know, Kim Jong-un has been in the news lately. I don't think there's too many Kim Jong-un fans, maybe unless Donald Trump is listening. Donald Trump is a Kim Jong-un fan, but I don't think many others are fans of evil, murderous dictators.
Rodman.
But Dennis Rodman is also a fan. Dennis Rodman has spent some time with Kim Jong-un back in the day, and he's talked about that. Kim Jong-un is a big basketball fan. You wouldn't notice by looking at him that he was into athletics or sports. He probably never played a sport in his life. His sport is smoking cigarettes and killing people. That's Kim Jong-un. That's what he does for a living. But anyway, Dennis Rodman appeared on the Mike Tyson podcast. And on this Mike Tyson podcast, he talked about what it was like partying. That's right, partying with Kim Jong-un in North Korea back in 2013. It's quite interesting, actually. Have a listen to this.
He started talking to me, in Korean, right? And interpreters we had around, he said, you like my country? I said, yeah, it's cool. It's fine. That's okay. It's okay. He said, he said, I love basketball. I said, that's fine. I love it too. He said, I'm so glad you're here. Stuff like that. And he said something like, well, we asked Michael Jordan to come, but he wouldn't come. So we asked you. Michael said, hell no, I'm not going. So he asked me. I said, yeah, I go. So we're sitting there talking about basketball the whole time, this, shooting the shot, stuff like that. Then all of a sudden, the game's over. I go with him. We go into his room, like 70 people around the wall sitting there, politicians. So he's just sitting there, Dennis, we would love you to come back. We enjoy your company, so we're gonna have dinner tonight. Have a little karaoke, have some vodka, a little, hot toddies and stuff like this. So I said, okay, great. Next thing we go to dinner, and we just shooting, we getting drunk and stuff like that. He gets up and starts singing karaoke. Have no clue what he's talking about. So everybody's clapping, and he has like this 18-piece women's band. I mean, these girls are hot, and the whole time they play one song. It was a theme from Dallas. I said, what is this all about, right?
That's weird.
I said, theme from Dallas. He said, that's all we know.
So good job to Sean for editing out all the F-bombs, because there were a lot of them.
Just picture this, ladies and gentlemen. Dennis Rodman sitting in a karaoke room with Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un gets on stage, and by the way, I'm sure they were both tanked. Dennis Rodman likes to drink.
The vodka was flowing, he said. Yeah.
I'm sure. And Kim Jong-un, imagine him up there on a stage to sing one song, and he brought an entire orchestra of hot women with him, singing, playing instruments behind him. I wonder how many of those women actually were forced to perform sexual acts.
What do you call it, JD? The pleasure squad?
Yeah, that's the pleasure squad, Brian. It's actually, I thought it was 200. It's 2,500 women.
That's awesome.
That are handpicked by Kim Jong-un and his administration, and all they do is they're not only they're cheerleaders for the Olympics and stuff, and they have these dances and they have this band, but what they really do is they give sexual favors to not only Kim Jong-un but also his highest military leaders from the age of like 14.
That's disgusting.
So he goes on to say and
they're all virgins. They're all virgins when they're picked out.
Fantastic.
Why would you even want that? No, just
you say you'd want some women with experience.
No, but I mean, it's disgusting, right? And I feel horrible for these women. But why would you even want these poor women that? Oh God, it's just so disgusting.
I mean, where's the sense of achievement or accomplishment when you're just forcing these women to pleasure you sexually simply because you are because they're afraid of not only their lives but their families' lives if they don't agree to do so.
I don't believe. Obviously, I think it's disgusting. Anybody that's involved in sex trafficking and whether you're a pimp, whatever the case may be. Obviously, I would never support something like that, and I feel horrible for these women. With that being said,
I feel horrible they had to sing the Dallas theme song.
With that being said, take away the sex trafficking, which is obviously 99.9. Just looking at 2,500 beautiful Asian women would be a dream of mine. I'll just going to say that, minus the illegal activity, which is disgusting. And again, this is the guy that, again, not to put politics into this, but this is the guy that Donald Trump has love letters with. Donald Trump has love letters with a man who literally has 2,500 sex slaves working for him. And Trump has praised this man. I mean, it's so disgusting to me. What would you say about somebody in this country that sex enslaved 2,500 women? I mean, what would you say to somebody like that, about somebody like that? This is Kim Jong-un. Not only is he's an evil, murderous dictator, and as far as I'm concerned, probably a rapist. It's unbelievable to me. What I'm surprised, and listen, I like Dennis Rodman. I've always liked him. I think he probably had a very difficult childhood. He clearly has some emotional problems, but he's a passionate guy.
Again, his dad changed his name to Philander.
Okay, but
he may have 27 brothers and sisters across not just the United States, but the world.
Like I said, he had a very difficult childhood.
Yeah.
Okay.
A very weird childhood.
And the point I'm trying to make is that's shaped in the way he is. But with that being said, if you're Dennis Rodman, what are you doing? Why are you hanging out with this man? He obviously knew that these women were getting sex trafficked. I mean, he had to have known that. And I hope he didn't participate, by the way.
I think he did.
Perhaps. I don't know if that's true or not. What I do know is that Dennis Rodman, that's the first question I would ask him. Dennis, we loved you as a basketball player. You're loved as the basketball player you are. You're an emotional guy. You wear your heart on your sleeve. We all appreciate you for that. With that being said, why did you develop a friendship with an evil, murderous dictator? Now, you could say to yours, he would probably say, I wanted to have better relations with the United States. That's not your job to do that. Let the politicians deal with that. Why are you going over there and spending time with this guy? Like, it's one thing, like, Dennis Rodman is his favorite band, he's on the record as saying, is my favorite band, live. So, Dennis, that's a normal thing. Go hang out with a band that you like. That's cool. Don't hang out with evil, murderous dictators and his 25-year-olds or his 2,500 Asian women that are being sex trafficked. And he's like, I just don't understand that. What was he trying to accomplish by doing that? I lost a lot of respect for Dennis Rodman when I heard about this story. And, you know, he did some interviews on national television. He cried with Matt Lauer when that idiot had a job. He cried in that interview.
You're saying Dennis Rodman, the person outside of the basketball court?
Yes.
Because I had no respect for him outside of the basketball court before he did this, and I don't think many other people did either.
Well, look, what did he do criminally that you think? I don't know. Maybe you know stuff I don't know. I mean, look, he was with a lot of attractive women. That's not a crime. He dressed up in drag. That's not a crime. He's just a weird dude. I'm not saying that's weird. You can dress up in drag. That's fine. But he did a lot of weird things. He said his last game in the NBA, he wanted to play naked. You know, he said some weird stuff, did some weird stuff. I don't have a problem with really. I don't like if he did anything illegal, like public intoxication. He's been arrested for that before. He's got some emotional problems. I remember the story when he was playing for the Bulls and he almost committed suicide. He had a gun in his car.
I think he was with the Spurs at that time.
Was he with the Spurs?
I think
okay.
so. But either way, yeah.
I'll tell you why he befriended a dictator, because no one else did. He liked to be different. He liked to do stuff nobody else did. His entire career, that was him. He was the guy who got all the rebounds, and nobody really cared about that. He was a phenomenal passer. He dressed the way he did. He did the things he did.
Underrated offensive player.
Because he wanted to be different. And I think that the reason why he befriended Kim Jong-un is because it was different and nobody else was doing it.
Well, a couple of, it's funny. First of all, Kim Jong-un apparently told him, well, we wanted Michael Jordan, but, we'll settle for you. So there was that.
Well, let me be clear on something. It's okay to be different. Wearing bell-bottoms would be different. Dressing up in drag as a masculine, basketball player is different.
It's very different.
Those are okay, different things. I don't have a problem with any of that stuff. Being different is fine. But hanging out and being friends with an evil, murderous dictator who sex traffics women and has killed his own brother-in-law, for God's sake. He's, don't even get me started with the Otto Warmbier stuff.
Yeah.
That's not being different. That's just wrong. It's just wrong. You just don't do that. Like, what would you say right now if LeBron James, for example, decided to spend 2 weeks with Vladimir Putin? I mean, what would you say to that? You'd say, LeBron, what the hell are you doing?
That would be crazy.
Okay?
Yeah.
What if Steph Curry decided to hang out in the crib of Assad? What would you say?
Or if he had like a hologram of Mussolini, and he had conversations with it on a consistent basis.
You understand what I'm saying here? It's okay to be different. That's why I appreciated Dennis Rodman. He didn't care. He was different. I like that. He was a personality. This is a different level, man. I'm sorry. I will always remember Dennis Rodman as not just the great basketball player, but as the guy who decided to be friends with Kim Jong-un. It's wrong. Nobody should do it.
Well,
leave it to politicians to try to speak to Kim Jong-un.
That being said, Donald Trump did know Dennis Rodman on a personal level, and he reached out to Dennis Rodman to get closer to Kim Jong-un. So you could theoretically say that Dennis Rodman did stop a nuclear war.
And guess
he
what?
was a diplomat, if you will.
Sure.
There's
Sure.
no evidence that there
A
was
bit of
going to be
unorthodox diplomat.
Yeah.
You could say
So
that.
But
there's
Kim Jong-un is fascinated by pop culture and American pop culture, movies, sports, so he was the right guy for the job.
There's no evidence that there was going to be a nuclear attack, number one. And number two,
Well, that was the big worry when Trump came into office, was that he was this hot-headed guy who was going to go. He was the Antichrist, and he was going to put the entire world, into nuclear warfare.
well, he called him Rocket Man. They were insulting each other back
Little
and
Rocket
forth.
That's
Little
fine.
Rocket Man. And then it came to love letters. Here's the bottom line here, okay? The Otto Warmbier thing happened. They murdered that poor kid. If we had good relations with Kim Jong-un, which clearly we don't. We don't. The last meeting that America was supposed to have with Kim Jong-un, Mike Pompeo gets on a plane, okay? And my understanding of the story is mid-flight they canceled on him, and he had to turn around and go home. So if we had this wonderful relationship with Kim Jong-un, which we don't, that kind of stuff wouldn't have happened. Obviously, Dennis Rodman's relationship with Kim Jong-un did not help the United States of America. So Dennis Rodman can say it was for America and getting better relations with North Korea, but it didn't work, okay? It was all for nothing except you developed a friendship with an evil, murderous dictator that forces 2,500 Asian virgins to have sex with him. He's disgusting. He's a murderer. That is what I call a murderer.